Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Okay, here's some OC. I like reading stuff about cryptids but don't buy into all this supernatural stuff. This story is my mother's and I have always believed it, albeit I still don't consider it supernatural. My mother 20s working as nurse in Wales. There are 2 kids, a boy and a girl, between 6 and 9. Sorry, can't remember exactly. Both have cystic fibrosis or something like that, terminal. My mum is really fond of kids and has a soft spot for the little girl. For the months she's been there, they get close and talk a lot. A few months later, the little boy dies. One day not long after, my mum gets off a shift in the evening, goes home, does whatever and goes to bed. Dreams of a black background with the little girl standing there. She says something along the lines of,
"I wanted to say goodbye and thank you, and I don't want you to be sad. My brother and I can run and play now, which we could never do before. So please don't be sad."
Dream over. My mum instantly wakes up. Time is like 0:15 or something. Mum gets dressed and drives to the hospital. Goes to the nurse on duty at the desk and asks to see the little girl. The nurse looks at her like she's crazy. Little girl went into cardiac arrest at 0:15 and died. Basically that's it. Now my mum has told me this story many times when I was younger, but recently we were looking for photos of me as a kid for my fiancé to see, and we stumbled across an old photo of my mum, another nurse and the 2 kids, and she told my fiancé the story. I of course already knew it, but I got this very strong feeling from looking at the kids. Looking at the little boy made me feel like there was a lot I didn't know. Like I had many things to learn, and looking at the little girl made me feel like everything was okay and I could be very happy.
In the house I grew up in, we had a particular neighbor. Older lady, late 50s, somewhere in her 60s at worst, unnaturally older looking, the kind of thing that you see with career smokers or ex-druggies. Had the voice to go with it too, that veteran hooker rasp. Nice enough lady, was courteous whenever I passed her while walking home. Halloween too, really any interaction was normal. She always dressed, out of age, was always a leather jacket, one with sleeves and one without, denim jeans. A few times she had her back turned and showed some biker gang symbol, never got a good look. As I get older and more aware, I notice certain things. Her yard is relatively unkempt. If you get close enough to the house, there's a distinct cigarette and smoke smell. Like part wood smoke, part burnt newspaper, part lighter fluid, part cigarette smoke. Few times when walking home late from hanging out with friends, I swear I hear raspy sobbing coming from her house. Either that or some slow cowboy music or something similar. Time goes on, she starts coming out less and less. Finally, nobody's seen her out in a little over a month. Get a police officer to check up on her. A couple minutes after he arrives, 2 more squad cars, and a little later an ambulance all show up. Figure she had fallen and couldn't get up. 2 cop cars leave, the coroner van shows up. Stretcher with a sheet draped over it wheeled out and loaded into van. That was the last we ever saw of her. Here's the creepy part though. Police did a thorough search of the house alongside who I assumed were her next of kin, either that or social workers or something. We never saw guests at her house or cars parked outside. Stacks on stacks of newspapers, old newspapers, most of them with parts cut out with scissors. A few cork boards were on the walls, covered in the snippets, all having to do with a bunch of West Coast biker gangs. Devil's Disciples, Chosen Few, Gypsy Joker, Pissed Off Bastards of Bloomington, and Hell's Angels. Bunch of other random biker-related memorabilia. Really rusted out Harley in the side yard under a tarp. A pentagram under the stairs, candles and everything. Wasn't sure what to make of it, just glad she never did something crazy like spike her Halloween candy or put razor blades in the bowl.
A bit of weird shit happened on a property behind my childhood house. Property used to belong to my grandpa. He used to keep cows there, but sold the property and moved them before these stories. Be 11 or 12. My parents are leaving me alone in the house for the first time ever. Kick-ass, watching movies and making my own food. Look out of the side door window while waiting for something to microwave. Fence line is visible from my door. Several pairs of reflective eyes staring intently at the corner of my house. They were all at least 2 feet above the top of the 6-foot fence line. Obscured by bushes. Think nothing of it because probably birds or something. In the middle of the night. Never seen an owl on that property in my life. Be a few years later. Have 3 cats. One of them comes home one day from nature cat adventures at night with a large, oval-shaped hole in her hip. Clean and smooth, looks almost surgical. Nobody can figure out where she got a spoonhead-sized hole in her hip from. Parents refuse to take her to a vet for some fucking reason. It heals just fine though. A few more years later. One of my cats doesn't come home at night. My parents set out to look for her on the hill in the morning. No signs of her, but found some weird shit. Big flattened out circle in some tall grass, lined with partially buried deer bones. Parents show me some pictures, but didn't keep copies because fuck if I know. Cat never comes home. Parents blame coyotes for both. It was 1 year ago. Visit and go for a hike because my fat ass needs exercise. Find a chain which has been driven into the ground in a place of no apparent significance. An abandoned motorcycle helmet in the tall grass. No sign of bone circle. Random ass dog runs up the trail. Barks at me for a bit before running further up the trail. A tree which seems to have fallen uphill, perfectly into a natural split in another tree. This is unfortunately the only one I actually have a picture of.
Be 13 years old. School trip for 3 days over the weekend, going to visit Denmark. Make us do tasks and challenges. If we fail, we get various punishments. I'm in a group with 3 of my buddies. Having a laugh, not taking it too seriously. Our task is to make food for the teachers. Don't give a shit, so we don't have to choose between our punishment. 100 push-ups or 100 sit-ups. Don't eat dinner. Sleep in an ancient Viking grave. Easy choice. Apparently our teachers thought we'd pick the push-ups plus sit-ups, so they have to go and ask the local forest warden if they can dump 4 kids in an old king's tomb. He agrees, since they sign his papers and so on. Only double-chambered tomb ever discovered. Pick related. We get dumped there, and are all acting mighty and tough. When inside in our sleeping bags with our flashlights, we start joking about how Freja would come down and show us something. Teenage logic. Then we start to doze off, and everything is really fucking quiet. In the room next door, likely the local queen at the time tomb, we hear footsteps, rather loud. Not deafening, just as loud as a person would walk. Then the sound of etching on stone, like with a chisel. We don't say a word, we just lay in our bags and pray it's the warden or the teachers. Teachers wake us next morning with hot cocoa and shove us into the bus. 2 days later we all get reprimanded for vandalizing a national landmark. Apparently the runic words for "I am happy for you" were etched in the other room. I still think it's there to this day, like it's literally carved in stone. I like to think that whatever chieftain, warlord or local king and his queen was buried there, were happy to have company. But I'm not sure.
This happened to my cousin. Don't want to criticize the guy, but he's kind of a coward. Meaning he will try to dodge if there's a fight, etc. He's in a car with his friend, an Arab guy. We have a lot of Arab immigration in France, so his friend is living in a bad neighborhood. These places are more or less dangerous, or at least they were. So, you got the situation. My cousin, a weak guy, and his friend, a tough SOB, both like 20, 21. Cousin is driving. Nighttime. They're in the car, just chilling, driving around. See a chick hitchhiking on the pavement. Of course they stop, because why wouldn't you take a chick in your car? She's barefoot and steps in the car. Small talk. They learn her name's Mary. She doesn't talk much after that, so they're just driving around, cousin and his friend talking, but Mary is silent. At one point, my cousin goes, "So, Mary, where are we supposed to drop you off, again?" She just growls. They get uncomfortable, but you know, they just think she's a weirdo or a junkie. Driving, talking awkwardly. "Mary, tell us where you wanna go." No response. "Mary." She screams.
Stop calling me by that name.
Cousin says it was not her voice at all, and couldn't be a female voice, like a really deep male voice. They are obviously dead fucking silent. They drive around for 5 more minutes when they reach a red light. His friend jumps on the occasion to open the door, jump out of the car and run away like Usain Bolt. Cousin is now alone in his car with Mary. So fucking scared, but as long as he doesn't talk to her, she doesn't do shit. Drive around a little more, but the intense fear gives him a huge adrenaline rush. He drives near the same road he found that girl. Stops the car, gets out of the car, grab the girl, he gets her out of the car, closes the door and starts driving again. Everything went fine. She didn't mind being touched, she just didn't want to be called Mary. But while he was getting her out of the car, he looked in her eyes, and he won't tell anybody how they looked. Never told me, never told anyone. He drives back to where his buddy left the car and keeps driving to where he went while running away. He sees him walking and stops the car next to him. The guy comes back into the car, and cousin says something like, "You bastard, you left me alone." They both laugh awkwardly. They drive back to the city they lived in. They were in another city. Not too far, cousin drops Abdul at his house. Drive back home. When he gets out of the car, he hears something growling. He slams the door, runs to his house and joins his mom in her bed. She wakes up asking,
"Did you do drugs?"
She thought he was on an acid trip. He says, "No," falls asleep.
Coworker says his TV is acting weird. I agree to go see what's up. Even though it had a direct wire from the media box, the TV lost its signal when you went in front of it. Take a scientific approach and try all sorts of situations. TV only loses signal when standing in a specific spot in front of it. Doesn't work with other objects, just with people. Even weirder, TV loses signal only if you're facing it. Turns out TV acts up when you're looking at it while standing in a specific point. I walk past it while looking only with the corner of my eye and you only get that VLC distortion on screen. Take it one step further, I put my hands together, nothing happens. I then make my soles touch. Bam, TV recovers signal. I play around with this, putting my hands and feet together and then resuming normal standing position. TV loses signal only if I look at it from a point with my hands and feet not touching each other. Guy's wife and kid come home, they see me turn the TV on and off with my face and body position. Wife says a quick prayer and kid screams.
It's a miracle.
With so many people in the room, the TV starts being unpredictable until it stops losing its signal.
Be teenaged me. Used to go for walks around the town I was living in at the time. Pass by an old burned down building or whatever a few times. Decide to pop my head in and take a look around. Just rubble and plant life from where nature had started to reclaim the structure. In one of the far corners, I notice a trap door. It looks relatively new compared to the state of what's left of the structure. Open it up, there's a ladder going straight down. Even with the bright midday sun pretty much directly overhead, I can't see to the bottom of the shaft. The metal rungs of the ladder are incredibly old and rusty. They look like they would crumble to dust if I tried to actually climb them. I count about 40 or so down before it becomes too dark and distant to make out the individual rungs. Grab a nearby rock, drop it in. Never hear it hit the bottom. Decide to come back later with a flashlight or something, to see if that will maybe help. Head back the next day. There's a cop car parked outside the building. They're staring right at me. Just keep walking. 2 weeks or so later, decide to try my luck again. No cops. Make it to the trap door. There's a shiny new chain and huge padlock holding the thing shut. Turn to leave in disappointment, nearly shit myself when I find myself face to face with a camera. Skedaddle at maximum velocity, never go back. Years later, get curious again. Don't live there anymore, but decide to check it out on Street View. The building is gone. It's just a flat concrete pad now, like they poured a foundation and never built on top of it.
Be me, 24 and an alcoholic. Staying at my great aunt's house in New Hampshire taking care of her. Start to play cards with her to pass the time and keep her spirits up. Starts telling me about a local urban legend. Tuxedo Man.
Tuxedo Man loves to dance anon. He's such a wonderful dancer.
Auntie Tess, who is Tuxedo Man?
Anon, Tuxedo Man was the owner of this really swanky motel back in the day, but he passed away in a boating accident.
Swanky motel. Auntie Tess gets winded talking and tells me she's out for the night. Time to get shit-faced. Pour myself a whiskey tonic and climb onto the couch to watch some shows. Old TV starts to get blurry, so I shut off the TV and try to turn it back on. Remote stops working, batteries must be dead. Open the back of the remote, no batteries were even in there. Stand up to go into the kitchen and the floor is soaked, all of it. Squish squash to the kitchen to find batteries in a towel. As I'm in the kitchen, the TV turns on and starts playing a song from Music Choice called Navy Blue, or some shit. I go back into the living room ready to throw some batteries at anything I see. TV turns off, music continues, floor is still soaked. Get the remote working and press the power button. Instantly, the song and station change to I Want to Dance with Somebody. Nope. I get it to stop when I put it on ESN, and the fucked up shit stopped. I don't really believe in ghosts. I think a lot of urban legends are just fairy tales, but Tuxedo Man was real. Apparently he was usually seen dancing in a tuxedo on the beach, under street lights near the old motel, and in the motel proper. Naturally, he always appeared drenched.
Old house in Johnsonburg, Pennsylvania that we were renting when I was a child. Part of the house was slanted due to foundation issues. Always had terrified feelings when alone in the house. Scratching in the walls at night, sounds of footsteps. Nightmares about something with glowing red eyes. One day mom leaves me alone to get some chicken wings from the bar down the street. I was very badly sunburned from a friend's pool party where I wore no sunscreen for several hours to the point of water blisters, burn cream, and bandages on most of my upper body. Was in the living room on a pallet of cushions facing the basement door, front door area, hard to sleep due to pain. Closed my eyes for a moment while sitting up, trying to drift off. Something screamed right in front of my face. I felt the wind from the scream on my face, lower pitched and rage-like. Opened eyes and nothing was there. Waited, eyes wide open with terror for Mom. Moved shortly after and nothing strange happened again until I was an adult. Early 20s bring a gal I used to fool around with off and on out to a bar, not dating. Saw weird shadows running near the car with her several years before this night, thought it was strange but meh. She drinks a bit much, starts kissing this ugly as fuck guy randomly. Normally I would say fuck it and leave her be, but guy was old and fat and her behavior was too erratic. Time to go. Get in the car, put the seatbelt on her and head down the road. She's crying. She faces down at the floorboard and starts muttering. She is hot to the touch, really hot. Starts suddenly flailing and screaming in a deep voice, trying to climb out of the car window. Hold her in the car and pull off the road. She starts laughing in a deep voice.
You know I'll never let her go.
She said, staring right at me, pupils fully dilated. Tell her God will protect her, say an impromptu prayer, not religious. Start screaming then crying. Drive her home, see shadows running along the car on the way home. Get her inside and she remembers nothing. Emailed a priest on issue, not Catholic. He had seen something similar before and cautioned me, telling me to pray in the best manner I knew for her and my protection. Said that some people were targets for unknown reasons. Started having sleep paralysis a bit after the car incident. Would feel crushing pressure, hear voices and feel hands grabbing me. Tried screaming but only a weak muffled whimper would come out, which I could hear. Would try to pray out loud and it would stop. It eventually stopped happening altogether after dreams about my deceased grandma showed me how to fly in my sleep. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm a bit older now, married, and no more weird issues other than occasional things calling my name. Books falling on passages concerning pregnancy before we found out. Occasional exact dreams of future conversations or situations that are meaningless. I avoid anything spiritual or occult altogether and found out my older sisters have had similar experiences. Think it is a family thing, but I think you can block that kind of shit if you want to and practice. Hey, X, I have an incredibly long, 10-year plus, history of sleep paralysis as a result of being an edgelord and trying to astral travel, lucid dreaming from the age of 14. Even though we all know that sleep paralysis experiences aren't real, my brain has cooked up some seriously fucked hallucinations for me in the past and I'd be happy to throw some more nightmare fuel on the bonfire if the lads are interested. 3rd place. B14. A friend is visiting. Midday. Comfy on bed taking turns playing Counter-Strike 1.6. Watching friend get smashed by bots. Start dozing off. Open eyes, friend is standing over me. His left hand is pressing down on my head. Can't move, terrified. Friend pulls his weird switchblade out of his pocket. It's South Africa and we lived in a dodgy area, so carrying a knife is par for the course. Still holding my head down with one hand, he perches himself on his haunches. Looks me in the eye. Holds knife up to face. Tells me that my neck has been broken. Describes to me in unspeakable detail exactly what he is going to do to my mother and sister with a knife. Needs to work on me first. The knife is coming closer to my face. Tip of blade approaching eye. Look of intense concentration on his face. Oh fuck. Close eyes tightly. Open eyes again. Friend is still getting throttled by bots, sitting in front of PC. It's your turn anon. What the actual fuck just happened? This was before I knew what sleep paralysis was, and it was this episode that made me learn more about it. 2nd place. B18. School holidays. Infinite Vidya. Stay up till 3 a.m., 420, Dota and TeamSpeak. Those were the days. Avi. Out of coffee, almost out of pot, friends going to bed, might as well call it a night. Get into bed. Fat fuck ginger cat, mango, decides now is the time for cuddles.
Whatever, he's an affectionate cat and I don't mind. Mango sits on my chest. Start to nod off. Wake up. Can't move. Oh sweet Jesus, what the fuck is happening to the cat? Cat's eyes are massive, red-hot burning embers. Literally the fucking devil. Cat's claws look more like velociraptor talons. This fucking thing is on my chest. It begins to dig into my chest with these ungodly appendages. Watch in absolute fucking horror as it claws its way into my chest cavity. Blood everywhere. Can't scream, can't move, can only watch. It begins eating into my heart. Pass out from shock. Next morning, I'm totally fine. First place. Context is important. I had defended my home from an attempted burglary a month or so prior. 2 guys tried to break in. I lost my shit and charged at them with a 750 milliliters beer bottle and the biggest kitchen knife I could find. They must have decided that it wasn't worth going toe-to-toe with a clearly deranged white boy. That being said, God only knows what they would have done if they had got inside. In the weeks that followed, I couldn't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours in a night because I was convinced they were gonna come back. It's also worth noting that I lived alone at the time of the break-in. Be 23. Work tomorrow. Kill the vidya. Crawl into bed. Sleep on my side, facing away from the bedroom door, facing towards French doors that lead into a tiny garden. Lay awake for about 3 hours. Every tiny bump or knock stirs me out of dat good ol' sleepies. Flat is built above a 300 kiloliter reservoir, so there's a fuckload of bumps and knocks. Eventually I feel myself starting to doze off. Hear the front door open. Sweet fucking Christ, please not again. Can't move. Footsteps in the lounge. They're coming closer. Hear someone grab the door handle on my bedroom door. The one that's behind me. The handle starts to turn. The landlady is a cheapskate and the hinges haven't been oiled in years. That motherfucker begins to creak as the door swings open. Still paralyzed with my back towards the intruder. Hear his footsteps coming into the room. Stop right next to my bed. Think to myself, ha ha, sleep paralysis, my old friend. The willpower of 1,000 exploding trap-fapping dicklets emerges from within. Force myself awake. Apparently aneurysms happen from doing this. Turn around, finally awake. Expect to find the door closed cuz muh hallucinating. The door is open. Almost void bowels, it was probably just wind. Proceed to not sleep for the rest of night. Fuck up at work next day. Lose equivalent of $120 odd. Soulless bank employee. Fucking fuck you brain.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.